Jason is here.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net, and today I want to talk about some Star Wars. You want to talk about some Star Wars with me, Rob?
I love Star Wars.
We're just here in Alabama talking about Star Wars. Yeah, so Ahsoka wrapped up. It ended, and then we had that big ending of the series. Or of the season 1 when everybody's like, oh, is there going to be another season? It's like,
season 1, part 1. Like I've been saying that for 8 weeks.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's I even take it a little bit further than you, and I'm like, this is an anthology show. This whole thing that we've had for the last couple of years. It's just been a big excuse to not make it one series, and like we said before, it's Disney uses that to not pay writers and directors and everybody else what they're supposed to do. So
smart.
Yeah. So if Ahsoka season 2 doesn't happen, then those plot elements will just pop up in The Mandalorian season 4 or whatever show is, the surrogate for the same release window, right? So we essentially are getting between 16 and 24 episodes of a show every year from
every 5 years.
No, every year. No, there's
2019, 2020, 21, 22, 25 years.
3 seasons of Mando, a season of Book of Boba Fett, a season of Ahsoka right there is 5. And then is there more? The Skeleton Crew is also coming. Okay, Kenobi doesn't count though. Kenobi's not part of this anthology. You know what I mean? Like it's a different era or whatever.
Wasn't there a pirate in that? There's pirates. Oh no,
Skeleton Crew is on that
one. Right.
Yeah. So Bespin. Oh yeah. I'll just hit this really quick. Bespin Bulletin has an article on BespinBulletin.com about like what does the future look like, and obviously when he put that article out, he had sort of like a release window of what it looked like, and for the live action Star Wars television shows going forward. Now, when he's getting that info, the strikes hadn't all wound down yet. And it looks like SAG is likely going to be over on Monday if things don't fall apart and go to hell. Like it looks like around Monday, we should have the announcement that everything is back. I think it looks good. So we'll see. But anyways, so he has this like whole like article, and it kind of, from memory right now, the way it seems to go is that the next like big show, I'm not going to talk about the animated stuff, but the live action stuff, the big, it looks like it would go Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, and then Andor. And like in some of the like way that things are moving around, it sounds like Andor gets pushed into 2025 even. And for what it's worth, Andor's not even like completely finished yet. The rumor was that there was like a week or two of shooting left in the schedule. However, I'm still of the opinion that if the money's there and the ability's there for Lucasfilm to do more, there's a good chance Tony Gilroy having to bounce during the strike meant that some things might not hit how Gilroy wanted them to hit. And so there could be even more additional shooting there. It's completely possible. And so that's another like kind of checkbox for a 2025 release on that. Now, none of this is set in stone. We're hoping that this isn't true, or we're hoping that things, that 2024 is more, there's more content coming in 2024 than what it sounds like. But it does sound like our next show would be Acolyte around mid-year. And then after that, now, I don't know. I wish I had talked to him better earlier, but he was telling me a lot of stuff about like schedules that he knows for other things. And Bespin Bulletin theorizes, does not report this, he theorizes this based off of other known projects, release dates that pertaining to Star Wars and not pertaining to Star Wars, that looks like the likely window would be around November 21st for Skeleton Crew of 2024. This is sort of a worst case scenario, but I think it's actually highly likely. And it would be rad if it wasn't true. People, you remember the last official word was it would be out in 2023, Skeleton Crew. That can't happen. And I'll tell you, if it did happen, it would require absolutely no promotion. You know, when you drive down the street and you see those buses with like Ahsoka Tano on the side of them driving around? Well, at this point, the bookings for those spaces those windows have already gone to other things. So it's very unlikely. I would love to be wrong. I would be so rad if by the end of the year we had Skeleton Crew. I don't think that's going to happen. And it does sound like that November release date could actually be where it falls. And Mando is definitely going to be a 2025 show as well. So right now it's looking like we have Skeleton Crew coming in 2024 and Acolyte. And then Acolyte first, Skeleton Crew second, which I know goes against the dominant idiot theories or idiot quote reports that Acolyte never filmed a day, that they owe taxes, and this filmed a fucking show a long time ago. They did a whole season. They had 9 months to film it.
Batista James is on Acolyte's ass right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, they're just so
get them.
They're just so stupid, and it's funny because it's the first show. You know, if things go according to where it's been, and I talked to a source at Lucasfilm, and kind of got it sounds it's like what's going on. It sounds like we're just getting to the part where things are getting hammered down. So once again, Bespin is theorizing this based off of knowing other calendar dates. And so but it does sound like a November 2024 week is the most likely. And the specific date that he nailed down is kind of contingent upon another show only releasing like one per week. But if that other show should, for instance, have 2 episodes that week, they could be moved up a week or something like that if they wanted to. But yeah, so November 21st is possible when Skeleton Crew could come out if it does face that full
over a year delay. From now.
Yeah, and like what I find
start sending Bespin your coffees, because I'm telling you, he's not gonna make it.
He ain't gonna make it.
To wait. It's a long time to wait, man. Like that means no movies till 2026 at least.
Yeah, I mean, I have heard on fairly good. Now this is dumb. So I mean, when I say dumb, I mean I bring it respectfully. I respect my sources like telling me this stuff, but it's like, yeah, Skeleton Crew footage in Acolyte footage is going to be shown this year for next year. So that's what it looks like. I tried to get Andor clarified about that, and they didn't. They said that they hadn't seen anything from Andor. So see where I'm going with this? Last year they put out a video, and like at the end they kind of said like, here's what's going to come out in 2023, and we saw like a shot of Jude Law and Skeleton Crew. You could tell there was some like apprehension about it, that they weren't really like trying to like make it the focal point because they didn't really know what they were going to do yet. But then all the strikes happen, and then we end up like, okay, now everything has to be spaced out a bit more. So it looks like 2 Star Wars shows in 2024. And it's just going to be, Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. And then, but it, it doesn't mean, for instance, that like Ahsoka season 2, for instance, might go into production randomly and then get tossed in there somewhere. It's possible. I feel like the release window is sort of like compromised. Not compromised isn't the right word. When you end with a big cliffhanger where we're talking about fucking Mortis again on Ahsoka, and then we end up with these kids flying around in space, it's sort of setting the show up to be like, why the fuck are you telling me this right now?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? And
it's a concept you would introduce in the first episode of a season, not the last episode of something that you'll get a conclusion to 3 years later. Like, it's
yeah.
just sorry, 2 years later. My bad, dog.
No, no, no.
But
No,
I know
it's true.
fans, they wanna be teased now so they know it's coming, so they just know it's somewhere in a pin, but that's not actually, because so much can change, dude, between now and then,
Mhm.
that, like, they could do this, and guys, there's a world where none of this even continues. Like, a whole paradigm shift could happen at that studio in 2 years. It's just such a ways away. That's why you generally don't set those things up. I know, like, Marvel has for the last 10 years, but let's be honest, like,
Well,
how
yeah.
many other people pull that off, successfully, really,
Have
so
knowing some people at Disney who are more, let's just call them, Mr. Business, and don't
business,
really get, you know what I mean though? Like, don't really
like
get
Mr.
a
Business.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I have friends there who aren't Star Wars friends. And there actually is sort of a fear of like what would happen if all of the people walked from like if Kevin Feige got up and walked out today, and as did, like, what the fuck would we do? Because they are smart enough to know that they don't understand it. So I do think that what you're saying is completely true. Like, the paradigm shift, when top brass walk and everything goes, like, anything can happen. And you could have some real dumb fucks come in there and just be like, nah, Dave Filoni's got a stupid hat, he's fired, like, it can happen. But the people who are there seem to know, like, oh, that was a bad idea. So I'm like, I have like a little bit of confidence in that not happening, but it's always on the table. You're right. And that's what's kind of scary about how long it
And that's
takes
just
things to
advice I
happen.
would give to any artist who's, they say you're doing a comic, you're
Yeah.
writing your own comic, right?
Hmm.
Don't put some shit at the end of the comic you're gonna do a year later. I'm just telling you,
Because you
don't
want
do it.
everyone to
You
get to
could
it.
put
Yeah.
things in there that you can pull from later on, but when you hang everything on it, you just gotta be careful. There have been times, man, in Marvel where they've put stuff out there and people are like, "Whatever happened to the kid in Iron Man 3?" Like,
So,
like,
so
whatever
and
happened to, like,
what is interesting about what you're saying is we see right now Dave Filoni sort of working in that paradigm of having done
right,
that, and he has, in a way, he has GL armor. He has the George Lucas armor in this, in certain, from a certain perspective. And that's that, like, Lucas came in, and so in this Mortis arc, now I decided, I haven't watched the Mortis arc in a couple of years, or not like close enough anyways, when I've had it on, and I was like, I need to watch it and, like, recomprehend it and recontextualize it with like what we know today. And, like, I've been arguing friendly, with like Star Wars Santa about what the stuff means and everything. And, like, so Rob, so what happens in this arc? Oh, and by the way, two things, Rob. uh I watched 6 episodes last night. I watched the Night Sisters arc and I watched the Mortis arc, and all of this, in mind of like what we just got from Ahsoka. And the show now is starting to show more of its like seams. It is like looking more dated now, having just watched it after having not watched it and watched newer seasons of it, where they've upgraded the stuff. I was like, ooh, some of this is a little bit rougher than it used to feel, in terms of not necessarily like the writing, but the actual like look of it. Some of the stuff, like, I don't know. It's like, maybe it's like the Unreal, where we're at with Unreal and what they would do or something compared to today, like, it would be so much smoother and better. But anyways,
3D, man. 3D doesn't
yeah,
age well. Just letting you
3D.
know, like,
No, no,
like,
no.
I love The
That's
Incredibles, but
Rob. That's
but
that's
when
that's
in
what I'm saying. Is, yeah, is
yeah.
it a lot of it's not aging that well now. It's, yeah.
I love The Incredibles, but I remember when they did a re-release, back
Hmm.
before Incredibles 2 came out.
Yeah,
I was like, "I'm gonna go see it," and I was like, saw it in the theaters, and I'm like, "This really needs a remaster." Like, when I say
yeah.
remaster, I mean, like, new lighting, like, just run it through. I know they don't have the RenderMan files, I know the reality of it, but it's like, yeah, I'm not saying it needs to look like we would do it today, but make it look like whatever the concept art was trying to achieve at the time. That's the
Yeah.
way I always kind of look at it. Like, I'm certain I've seen the Art of the Clone Wars show, and I'm like, this art's better than the show.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
I
by
just think
far.
a lot of times, like 2D, we've been doing 2D for so long. You look at the concept art for Samurai Jack, you look at the show, you can see it's the concept art come to life. And I just feel like that's just the way this stuff ages the best,
Yeah.
across the board.
So, a couple of things that I picked out of watching the Mortis arc. I'm gonna go on Santa's show at 10, by the way. So we're gonna wrap up by 10 today, and then I'm gonna go hang out with Santa. So that way I'm gonna do 2 shows today. Actually, make my goals this week. Santa just said his computer is fixed, and he said woot because he's on the internet 20 years ago. But good for you, Santa. I'm glad he's like today's show. I'll go hang out with them and you know say a bunch of bad things on the show. Oh, I can't see my thing here. All right, here we go. So one thing that goes on in the arc is Dave Filoni and George Lucas kind of conceptualize this place called Mortis, and Mortis is let's call it a mythical spaceship. It's like a giant pyramid, like 2 pyramids on top of each other, so like a kind of like a diamond, and it's in space. And Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan end up there. While they're there, it starts in a bit like Twilight Zone-y. Where are we? How did we get here? Anakin like walks into a room and his mom is there. It's played by Pernilla August, his Shmi Skywalker. She's in it, and she's like, trying to tempt him to the dark side. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi finds Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson. And Liam Neeson or Qui-Gon is like, dude, he's in a lot of danger. This place is dangerous. This place is a conduit of the Force. It's not going to, you need to watch out for our boy. And so it's like you already have like, big characters from the films like in this arc. And it goes to show like this is sort of one of the flagship arcs of the series. George Lucas is really in on it. He's calling up Liam Neeson, Pernilla August. He's getting the band back together from Phantom Menace for Anakin and stuff. And but one of the things that's said many times, just like in the Ahsoka series, is I am much more and so are you. And the use of those words is very specific in the Ahsoka series, and it is something that is I think leaning back to the Mortis stuff, and that's what he says in the Mortis arc. And Anakin meets this guy, and like when you look at what Anakin is doing in this episode, he's meeting the guru, if you will. He walks up to this guy meditating. He puts the lightsaber to his face, which is the picture I pulled for today's show, and he's like, all of this kind of plays into the Shogun-y kind of stuff that Filoni's doing with Ahsoka. And it's like, well, what happens when when you do meet? What happens when you transcend beyond just being the Ronin? And the trope kind of moves into the Zen Masters. And so I think it seems likely that the next era of the story will move into the Zen Master part of the shonen-y kind of Japanese inspired cinema. So in that arc, the father explains to Anakin that the shapes we take are merely a reflection of the life force around us. We can take many shapes. And when you look at like what goes on in Ahsoka's dream, and when she falls into the water and all that stuff, and like what happens there, and how like the forms Anakin takes and all of that shit, it's all completely 100% in line with the not only the narrative conceit of the Mortis arc, but of the powers of the characters from there as well. And when Anakin Skywalker goes to Mortis, the temptation that he has to work through is his guilt over having killed women and children to avenge his mom. That's why his mom shows up to him in an evil form. And we learn that the son is sort of forgotten he was kind of evil. And the daughter knows she's good and she's the goodwill of the Force. He kind of doesn't remember that. And they're kind of living there in harmony. The father keeps them there because they became so powerful that if they were out in the real temporal world, as they call it, they would destroy like the fabric of the universe. They cannot coexist with the actual living beings of they're too much. They don't belong. So the father keeps them there, and he calls it a sanctuary and a prison. The fact that he has to do this, but he's also becoming old, and he says that he's dying. Now, the reason that he's dying isn't because he has Star Wars space leukemia or something like that. It's that it's that a new chosen one has come about.
It's midi-chloridia.
Hey,
it's midi-chloridia.
When
I can do this all day, folks. I'm
at
at that age.
Any form, your hand's a fleshlight. Okay, so anyways, yeah, so but it's also diseased, right? Because of imbalance in the force.
Only this stupid show would do this.
That's fair.
Not getting that anywhere else, folks.
That's a promise. So anyways, yeah, so it comes down to the fact that he needs to know, the father needs to know, is Anakin the chosen one? Because if he is, actually, he's supposed to bring balance to Mortis. And so when you want to get down into the prophecy and what did George Lucas do with it? Well, George Lucas dealt with Anakin's guilt over what he did in this arc, the wrong things, and also has like a moment where the son shows Anakin what will happen if he picks his side. What's he gonna choose? And he ends up seeing everything. He sees Alderaan blown up. He sees Darth Vader. He doesn't understand any of it. He just knows what's going to happen. But he's also, I think it's implied that it's implied, and that's a little frustrating, but it's implied he will bring security to the galaxy and end the wars. And that is true. There's a few years without the Galactic Civil War. So he does do everything, he does end the Clone War. All that stuff that the bad guy's promising him happens, but obviously it's always like it's the monkey's paw, it's the genie out of the bottle, it's the there's a caveat, and it's not good, and he's not really seeing it. But the father's warning him. He's like, you can do, he's all, you brought balance here. I'm gonna, and he by the way, they kill the son, but once again, it's a spiritual avatar. It's a form. It's not, I don't think, like good and evil didn't disappear when they did that. We know that. It's not how it goes. But what happens is Anakin...
Careful, Jason. You say Avatar around here.
Oh, shit. Well, no, when they get into Mortis on the inside, it is inspired by Avatar. Like the floating islands from Avatar. Filoni just straight up took that shit. He saw Avatar, loved it, put it in there. Those floating islands are all over. And then he also took the dragons and put them on Onderon, and because he liked Avatar a lot. But anyways, as it goes on, the son is committed to evil now. He sees the potential and the power. And one thing that's worth noting, though, is in the arc, the son does leave that realm, but it's also not clear if they actually ever left. It seems like it was kind of a dream. So I think they have an in and an out on the son being able to leave. Because like they fly away and then Anakin has a dream and he's put back into it. So I kind of don't think they ever really left. But anyways, Ahsoka dies in it, she's brought back to life by the sister. The sister, though, is also dies in it, is killed by the brother, but also becomes the owl that follows Ahsoka around. So we know that death, not the same interpretation as mortal death for these cats. It has, I think it just means a transformation will occur. And when we see Anakin going around doing what he's doing in the Ahsoka arc, it almost seems to almost be like he is maybe the father already. It's completely possible they could go that way, but it's really it's very like mystical, and Dave Filoni can just be like, oh, you didn't know about the dagger of destiny, and then all of a sudden like it's like a new thing, so I'm just interpreting what's there. Not
sounds like a better Indiana Jones film.
Dagger of Destiny. But yeah. So anyways, though, yeah, so the ability to manipulate and control the force meant that they had to withdraw from the temporal world and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, Anakin ends up going, they kill the son, but Anakin's made a choice in that moment, and he tells him, like, you brought balance here, you can do it out there if you just are, what does he say? Basically be wary of your heart. basically saying if you keep on this Padme track, it's not going to go well for you. You know, I don't know if he knows that specifically or if it's just a general warning, but it does pertain. And of course, Anakin doesn't, and that's what leads to all of the bad stuff that goes on. Now, the thing about it is, why does the news?
No. Fun fact,
Oh,
Jason.
hey
I
George.
thought I'd give you a little tidbit here since you did the work. Padme's original name was Rondostat, just so you know.
Rondostat. All right.
Yeah.
Rondostatanaka.
Yeah. Hey, do the math.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I gotta go throw my head into a wall. All right. Bye.
But yeah. So basically what we're gonna, I think where we're going with this stuff though is when a new chosen one starts to come about, that's when things go weird in Mortis. Now, what is actually fascinating about the concept, if Filoni should choose to pick it up, is who is the chosen one? Who's the next chosen one? Is it Rey? Is it Kylo? Or does something happen that causes the dyad? And if the dyad becomes like sort of the issue, because like potentially Palpatine going and refusing to die and all of that stuff probably is going to be what actually makes the dyad happen. So what does that mean for the Mortis concept? And I think that's where
this piece of shit doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, this piece of
I know
shit
he doesn't say
work. No.
he doesn't say piece of shit, but he should have. It's the one time he should have really. He curses in that movie. It's just that piece of shit. It just makes it way funnier.
Right. But so I kind of think that it like they may end up taking this into all of that, having this really huge, like kind of big physical spiritual manifestation in the galaxy and like what it means, and it might lead to like why Rey, how Rey comes about and everything like that. And it could be super fascinating. But the other side of it is when they are in that realm, like the father, the son, and the daughter, they're having conflict. They're fighting monsters. They're doing all kinds of shit. And it actually makes me look back at Anakin Skywalker's role in Ahsoka season 1 and say, like, he's not a cameo in that show. He's a cast member. He's in multiple episodes of the show. He has speaking lines. It's not a walk-on part. It's not a cameo. That's a fucking misinterpretation of what that term is. And so when they go forward, we might have actually like heavy Anakin Skywalker content coming, with Anakin actually being a hero, doing heroic things, or somewhat one of the protagonists, anyways, in a way that like I never thought was actually like very possible or likely. And then when you get down to it, like what all of that means, like in like what the son wanted to do and that kind of stuff, it has crazy potential with the Balin character going there or going somewhere to there. Like for all we know, that cube thing is in the fucking, we might look over to Balin's perspective and see a huge pyramid there, and that pyramid may be Mortis. I'm guessing that's what's going to happen. He's like, Balin's in the hand of the god when you get down to it in that scene, right? And which if they didn't, which is fucking crazy if you think about it, since he died, it's kind of like one of those weird things. But what's going to happen? What is all this going to mean? Well, if they want to, they have the ability to set up, like I was trying to say, like yesterday, is when that film comes, when the Filoni Star Wars film happens, the climate of it you won't have to have seen any of the stuff to go watch that movie in the theater, but to set up like a what the fuck is going on climate, like where you're lost. One of the beautiful things about Star Wars was George Lucas saw Seven Samurai and didn't understand it, and in not understanding it was like, whoa, it's really
saw
fun.
The Hidden Fortress and didn't get much of it either, but
yeah. But that's where you go and you create this, you make this place where you don't understand what's going on, but you understand like the conflict and like that the heroes are in trouble, and you have like a good time. And so I think Filoni has like a huge opportunity to put like a new climate into Star Wars in that film That's not just, oh, look, it's Mandalorian and he's on the most epic bounty hunt of his life, like, which is kind of what we assumed it would be when we very first heard it. And now it might be like, oh shit, like he's, maybe just the Han Solo of this thing. It could go that way. You know what I mean? Grogu and I think might be the Han and Chewbacca of this new arc, depending on like where they take it. And also like other questions are, who is the protagonist? When you have an Avengers style like show, we keep assuming he's the Tony Stark, but what if he's not? What if it's a new character or something like that? Somebody we haven't met yet. Somebody who's going to come out in Mando 4 and Ahsoka 2. Like there's potential for something like that to happen. It could be Ezra. It could be, it could be Ahsoka. It could be Mando. Or it might just be the Avengers without a clear Tony Stark, which I think would be not the best. I think it would be a messy script, probably, potentially. But there's a lot of, I don't know. I'm happy with Ahsoka at the end of it in a way I didn't anticipate, because for the first time in quite a while, I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? And I'm seeing potential that wasn't on the table before, But,
whereas I see their execution and go, well, none of this potential means anything if there isn't a human story behind it. Just letting you know, people don't, especially Americans.
Wait, what are you letting me know? What are you letting me
know? They don't deal well with going to the theater being told a bunch of weird mumbo jumbo that don't mean nothing. I'm just letting you know. Unless that shit says Christianity on it, they don't
no,
buy into it,
But no, that's the whole thing is the shit that's in theory, Rob, who knows? I mean, movie, nobody knows what a movie is going to be until it's done. But
sure,
they're not going to go, I don't think, and do it that way. I think they're going to do all the mumbo jumbo on Disney Plus, where the fans who are down to ingest it and process it will deal with it.
I mean, we can point to a more recent event in Star Wars was the Rey with the mirror scene, was the part where people were like, cut that out. I don't.
Yeah, that's because they're idiots. They're idiots.
I hear you, but they see it in the Marvel movies with Thor doing weird Thor shit in a weird cave, and they just just letting you know, unless there's a real human bit to it, it's not going to resonate. It's just going to be fans of this going, they put it in there, it's everything I've ever wanted to see, and it's like, all right, that bumped you up maybe an extra 15 million, but they want to make that $1 billion thing, and it's like, this sort of stuff works better in TV, I feel, but here we are in a TV, and it's like, this could have been a like, there's all sorts of stuff with Balin where the minute they get on that planet, I'm like, why is he even hanging out with Thrawn? He's a mercenary. I got where I wanted to be. Why am I even dealing with you people? Like,
so here's what happens. Something I picked up on when I watched it again is that Balin is a mercenary. It's not clear if he really thinks, if he knows what he's going to find when he gets there. But when he does get there, that's when he hears the voice call to him. And that's when he changes.
Yeah, it's what he tells the Shin, but then he still keeps being a mercenary. Like,
well, no. You can't just go, oh man, a mystical voice called
using the cover. I thought he used the cover to go after.
Slides, he slips out. And
he fights Ahsoka first and then leaves. I think he should have just slipped out. Leaving Shin and him going would be one thing.
But there was a point to it, and the point was that they have all analyzed Ahsoka Tano based off of where she comes from and her past. They don't understand the transformation that she went through with Anakin already. No, Balin doesn't know. So when they goes there, they think they're gonna fight. They think that it's gonna be they're gonna draw it out, and then he may even, for all we know, have intended to be like, come with me in the big picture. We don't really truly know like where that was gonna go, because she just fucking ninja vanishes on him, and that's also the moment where we're like, oh, that's not the Anakin way. That's more of the Obi-Wan way. You know what I mean? I'm gonna turn off the Death Star's fucking tractor beam and then disappear. It's a different angle, and it surprises him in the moment. So anyways, though, his plans change when he's there, because so that's the other thing. When we first get there, he knows, he's heard about Peridia. he's heard about like the Mortis stuff. Not many people know about it, but it's considered to be like a myth. They don't take it super seriously anymore. It's like an old legend stuff. And when he gets there and then he sees that the witches are there and all that shit, that's when it becomes real. That's when he's like, the old myths are real. And then he's like, oh shit, I can kill God. I think
that's why it would have been great to have one episode of just Balin where we really get not just him telling Shin something, and then if you know all this, then you'll know it. That's not.
But then also, but you guys can't handle it, Rob. You included, Rob, because you're just one of those Star Wars fans. If it's called the Ahsoka show and I get a Balin episode, that's a bait and switch.
No,
I will not stand
Star Wars
for it. I will not.
Shows you the villain's point of view and the protagonist's point of view.
I'm fucking around, but I mean, I'm just.
But they won't know you're fucking around.
I'm using
so I have to sit here and actually explain.
Yeah, the idiocy of the discourse. Like I was watching a Star Wars like debate or whatever a couple days ago, and in it they're all like, "Oh yeah, like Ahsoka's not even like the main character in the," and I'm just like, you fucking guys, like if you believe that any show is like a singular character show at this point in Star Wars, when every fucking Star Wars IP ever in the history of Star Wars has been an ensemble cast, you're not paying attention.
It's not,
it's
but
marketing.
These are the same people.
It's marketing, though. It's just
these
marketing.
Are the same people, Jason. That the minute they announce anything, if it's Ant-Man or a Han Solo, all they're talking about is what other characters are they going to see in it that have nothing to do with those characters. They're the first ones to go, is Darth Maul going to be in the Ahsoka show? Or is Mace Windu going to be in the Ahsoka show? Are the X-Men going to be in the Marvels? You're never going to hear the end of it with these people.
Right.
I don't like that my version of Mr. Fantastic wasn't in the Doctor Strange movie. Like that's the shit they bitch about, Jason.
Yeah.
So same people. Santa's guilty of it. Meg's guilty of it. Only you and me are the only ones who I'm Bestman, I could say too. I think we're the only ones not guilty of this. Like, seriously, I don't know of everyone else I know that's come on the show is guilty of it. Every one of them. Jesse's guilty of it. Fucking who else? Who else has been on this show? True. Him too. Cal Kestis going to be in it. Is a live service Star Wars going to be in Ahsoka?
No, I'm going to say I'll take being guilty of it. Like, I mean, I'm the one who's right now. I'm saying I think Ventress is going to come back to life.
Well, that would be an antagonist to have, but.
Or it could be
how that could be related as an intent.
Yeah, but I think she's likely going to be a new unlikely hero in the sense that the character becomes more actualized by the one thing about Ventress that is oftentimes forgotten is she starts
as guilty of it.
She starts as a Jedi, and her master's killed. When her master's killed, she fucks up the people who killed her master, becomes this evil little vagabond that Count Dooku then ends up taking on as a secret apprentice after that. And then she ends up like getting betrayed by Count Dooku when Sidious says she's getting too powerful, kill her. And he's like, because Sidious knows of her and she's not that secret anymore. And he has to kill her. Well, he fails, and then that's when she retreats back to the witches and just ends up integrating back where she comes from and becomes the witch. Then Dooku comes back, gets revenge on the witches, and kills all of them. And she's just out in the wild. She bounty hunts for a time, and then she ends up in a unproduced Clone Wars arc that just became a novel at the time, just to get the story out. And then her and Quinlan Voss sort of have this brief romance, but she dies in it. And then he buries her body on Dathomir. And so if they resurrect if those are witches in the caskets on Thrawn's ship, and they're all dropped on that planet, and they do some kind of resurrection spell, and all of the witches on the planet who are there rise, it stands to reason Ventress will come back. But also, Ventress and Ahsoka aren't really mortal enemies at that point anymore. So I would have to think that she would have some sort of allegiance to the Night Sisters. But then what happens when she realizes that the Night Sisters are working for Grand Admiral Thrawn, who's an Imperial? And I'm going to assume that they generally know that the Clone Wars were a ruse at that point, 8 years after Return of the Jedi, that it was Darth Sidious Palpatine who orchestrated both sides. So there is no actual good answer for her to have an allegiance to Thrawn, and for the Night Sisters too as well. And Morgan Elsbeth also is like, he's like, for the Empire, and she's like, for Dathomir. And so that goes to say what she wants, and sets somewhat of her being in opposition to
A real riveting moment.
She'll go to order, give a $10 super chat because he knows I got to eat. This fat boy got to eat. Shogun, thank you, Shogun.
The crazy part though, Jason, is that fat boy likes
Hmm?
to eat fat boys. You know those ice cream sandwiches?
Oh, those are good.
Yeah.
Those are the best ice cream sandwiches, actually, now that you mention it.
Best name too, since Chipwich, Fat Boy.
I know, it fat shames you while you do it, and you're like, you know what? You don't even need to put the calories on the package because I know I'm accepting it.
Into buying it, you know?
Yeah. It's like, oh, here's a loan with 40% interest. I'll take it.
Yeah. You know me.
Shogun says, if Balin is being led to Abeloth, why would they erect a statue of the father that points to that direction? Father statue says, yes. Head this way to Abeloth, evil. Father didn't like Abby too much. So,
no. I can answer this, Jason. He's not pointing at anything. He's saying, pull my finger. It's a pull my finger. You pull his finger, little doors come up, and his little ass around, or his Abeloth, you know what I mean? You go right on into his Mortis.
All right,
and you see visions and stuff.
Hear me out.
It's gonna be great.
We have the Stormtroopers with Eddie Van Halen guitars as like their armor, right? And then Abeloth, David Lee Roth. Yeah. Coincidence?
Harvey Lee Roth? Wasn't that the guy who killed Kennedy? I think that was the guy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know much about history.
I don't know, Jed. I just want to let you know that that's a fart joke I put in that show. So ass is in the final episode if you know what to look for. It's in there.
My thing is on the Abeloth stuff. I don't know the extent in any concrete way as to how much input Dave Filoni and George Lucas had in that element of it. Now, a lot of people think because George Lucas said, yeah, I'll sell you Star Wars fan fiction for money in novel form, it means he endorsed it. And that's just not the case. George Lucas very clearly did not give two shits about the EU. That doesn't mean the EU is bad. It doesn't mean that I'm saying it's bad. It doesn't even mean he's saying it's bad. It just means he didn't give a shit. And he was down to like satiate the fans' desire for that product. And he just always said that was a different thing than what I do. Like he clearly said that. So the Abeloth stuff, I don't know how serious to take it. And when I look at like what it is, if I was just gonna bet, I would imagine the Abeloth concept becomes where the Night Mothers come from and how they stole the power from the gods. They are essentially Prometheus stealing fire from the gods, and it's that magic. And that may be something that is in the deeper lore. That would be my simplest guess as to what it actually amounts to in the big picture. And I don't think that it's going to go that way because we have that book wasn't able to go and fuck around with, Anakin Skywalker as a Force ghost. It wasn't at the level. So I'm just letting people know. I don't put much stock in the Abeloth thing until but if somebody has some like little thing of Dave Filoni, an interview or something from the author of that book or something that like really gives a good insight, send it my way. I would love to like see it. So that way, just to be able to, grapple with it, like how serious to take it. But without knowing any of that stuff, the fact that it's a Legends book at this point, and the fact that George Lucas and Dave Filoni didn't put it on screen leads me to just go like, yeah, I'm just going to kind of, leave it alone for now in my mind and not think of it too much. Cause I don't think that's going to really go anywhere, especially when just the concept of the Trinity of anchorites does everything that the story would need to move forward. And, but also the other side of this is the Norse gods or whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about here. I admit it. I'll probably look into it when I get bored, I get stoned and bored one day. I'll be like, Norse mythology, let's see what's going on, brother. But right now I don't know any of that stuff. And but the Shin and Balin, like their last names are these Norse gods, and I guess, or either Norse gods or Norse characters. We'll call them characters because I don't know what I'm talking about. But they basically bring about Armageddon. They bring Ragnarok out. And so it
that
does,
movie again.
yeah. But in that sense, what number one is, Star Wars borrows from the mythology, but it never fucking just retells mythology. So that's where I'm a little bit like about this. But those characters are probably basically bringing about the Harbinger. You know, they're bringing about Ragnarok. They're bringing Star Wars. They're bringing Armageddon. And so if that's
Michael
what
Bay?
yeah, if that's what those characters do, then essentially it would be allowing those anchorites to be unleashed, and either the bad guy or all three, however you want to look at it, and it would become a big important, you know, moment in the Star Wars the Star Wars mythology, I guess. And then that would be, you know, a thing, a movie, something for a movie. And but also, if it goes that big, they got to bring Luke Skywalker out. So what if that Dave Filoni movie, though, is a Luke Skywalker movie? What if Luke Skywalker is the fucking hero of that movie? And it's Luke Skywalker.
He
and
would be your
friends,
Captain America, right?
Yeah,
Or
he would
Tony
be your
Stark, right?
yeah, he could be
America.
He could be your, well, he could, no, I could literally see him being either of those roles. Not as cool as Tony Stark. Luke Skywalker's a fucking dork, but he could be, you know, he could be your
Dash Rendar would be your Tony
shit.
Stark.
If Dash Rendar's in this galaxy, I'm gonna tell you something. Ben Solo ain't Han's kid.
No, Matt Berry is gonna be Dash Rendar. I believe this. I believe this.
But yeah, I mean, like there's the potential for where this goes, and you know, Luke Skywalker. I mean, Dave Filoni's always wanted to fix what the crybabies are crying about. So something I think he was tasked with doing with the Clone Wars. What are the crybabies crying about? Let's make it. Let's satiate the crybabies and make it good. And in doing so,
it involves deep emotional pathos that involves dealing with actual character drama. But if it's all lore shit, he can do that all day long, right?
No, he does that. He does that in the Clone Wars. Does that, Rob?
It just doesn't do it in live action. He just pretends like he forgot how to do all that. Like,
but he goes through my point is, if they announced a Luke Skywalker movie, everybody would freak the fuck out. And I'm kind of thinking that could happen. But what it would do is you have all the people that are like, well, The Last Jedi wasn't my Luke Skywalker, you know, and that kind of stuff like that. Well, giving those people a Luke Skywalker as a hero thing where you fucking, you know, is with his father defeating the Force gods and shit like that, and Mando and Grogu and Ahsoka Tano are there. I mean, it's ultimate fan service, and it's ultimately delivering exactly what everybody actually wants, even if it might not be the best thing for them, but it's what they want. So I keep seeing that movie with all of this stuff as it opens up as being a really big opportunity, not only for cash for them, but just to please fans.
I told you when they announced the Mando movie that Skywalker's gonna be in it. Like, there's no way they don't do that. They're gonna have to put. I mean, that was like the missed. I mean, the obvious. If it were a Mando movie, the obvious thing would have been just have Grogu and Luke and all that shit show up and then do the reuniting. But now we're in a big Skywalker versus Thrawn, Skywalker versus the witches, right? Essentially.
Yeah. I mean, this all of this stuff is just like is on the table as being completely possible. You know, it could go that way, and you know, and when you look at what's on the table for them, the theory, this is all an adaptation of Heir to the Empire seems a little silly.
Adaptation.
Adaptation.
Adaptation. Yeah. I legitimately thought you said that. Like, I sounded.
No, I didn't say it, but
it's yeah.
I'm glad I can't speak so that we get winning concepts like that. But
I can't wait for you and Santa to spend 2 more hours talking about Mortis and Abeloth and the Father and the Son and the Holy Force Ghost for that fucking. Oh yeah, you just get them so excited. You know, you next thing you know, Balin's gonna end up on a city on a shining hill, and Santa's gonna flip his fucking beard off. You know, he's all of his Reagan dreams are gonna come true in Star Wars, and you know,
like in that environment, like in the Mortis sort of game in the Twilight Zone, Star Wars Twilight Zone, you Anakin sees like what he's gonna do, doesn't understand it, and it's like, oh man, like knowing what happens in the sequel trilogy though. Look at what they can show Luke in that. And in showing him that, if he doesn't know who the chosen one is, because let's say it is a dyad and that makes it more confusing, when he does see what Kylo is, and he knows, and he's gone through this experience already, and he turns on that lightsaber for a second, could actually give that more meaning and extra layers. Might fix it for some. For the people that it's fundamentally broken for, I think there's no fixing it, so who cares? But you know, it could make it better.
There's no way to fix episode 9 in that it doesn't end.
No, I'm talking about episode 8. When he goes to kill his grit. There's people that just can't take the idea that Luke is human and saw that his nephew was Space Hitler and thought maybe I could just curb stomp this fucker right now. I think he should have, personally. You know, it's kind of funny because the same people who don't understand Luke Skywalker needing to curb stomp his nephew are the same people that are like Sabine Wren should be in prison for going after Ezra. It's like we either apply real world rules to this shit and laws, or we don't, you know. But they ultimately like are missing the point, and it's
you saying they're inconsistent, Jason.
They're inconsistent.
You're joining me.
But they're missing the point, and the point is that she is wrong. She did the wrong thing. She did the wrong thing for the right reasons. People won't understand why she did it. They'll hate her for it. Ahsoka knows it's the wrong thing, but Ahsoka's made the choice, the choice of love, that I love you. I'm going to support you and stand by your decision, and I'm going to help you get through this, and then hope you're going to come out on the other side of this a better person who makes the right choices with greater power. You know, that's where it's at.
And then when Sabine finally figures out that her master's master was Darth Vader, she's going, "You never told me," and then she abandons Ahsoka.
You know what?
Like she doesn't learn anything.
I don't know. I mean, on that idea, like a part of it, I don't put as much. I think it's a thing in politics, but in real life, if like, you know, you told me your grandfather was a Nazi, I just make fun of you.
No, if I told you my art teacher, the guy who taught me all my art, was Hitler, you'd be like, well, that's really it's a real fucking problem.
But it also wouldn't make me like if I was your, you know, if you were my art teacher, I wouldn't throw down my pencil. You know what I mean? And be like, I'm not learning from you. Oh,
yeah, well, it's a bigger problem with the kids than it is with the Ahsoka. Just let you know.
Yeah, no,
it's the Luke and Leia thing component is the bigger issue. She at least walked away from Anakin. She has plausible deniability. You know, she could be like she's like Michael Cohen in a way, right? You could be like, hey man, I was done with this and then I turned against all that shit and I'm not for it, you know, and it's the guy that I knew before I was still friendly with, but the guy I became, I'm not, blah blah blah. Or I didn't know he was a fucking monster, I guess.
Yeah.
I get all that, but
yeah. I mean, it's
kids running the galaxy, and you know, especially Luke Skywalker. I mean, when you find out if you found out that Superman's father wasn't you know, a farmer, it was, you know, it was actual Zod, right? That's a whole nother problem.
But bring it back to like Star Wars, like, and what they were able to do with it. And Kylo realizes, so like you realize you have this power, you have all of the ability for good and evil in you. Then you find out Darth Vader's your grandfather. And then you become a little bitch about it, right? Like, which is kind of what they do with Kylo, but they really didn't do it. They had the idea. They let us know they had the idea, but there's nothing to do with that. There's nowhere to take it. That's like in a way you want to do in The Force Awakens, in that movie at that point in time. So it's like shouldn't have done it when you really get down to it. They just didn't know what the fuck. They just had this one idea and they fucking stuck to it, but it didn't amount to anything. And that's where, you know, you run into that problem. But also the other thing to put on the table is, you know, depending on how they fuck with the timeline of when this is really going on and like when Kylo is actually born specifically. And like, we know there are certain things that have to happen, but like in Bloodline and stuff like that, it's a little bit more flexible, I think, than people realize when you just look at it. This could all be what makes Leia leave too. This could be what makes Leia decide not to be a Jedi Master and, you know, do the mommy direction too. I'm just throwing it out there. You know, the stuff.
3PO will come out and tell us. He'll go tell Luke, Senator Organa, your sister has decided not to be a Jedi because of. And he goes, yeah. 3PO shenanigans.
Oh, man, okay. Well, I got to go because I have to go do Star Wars Santa show now. It's the way it is. Thank you for the super chat, Shogun, and I hope everybody was cool with the speculative show today. I think we're going to be in a speculative place for a little while. Considering what's going on with everything, but so we had to do a short show because today was either no show or just a Santa show. But I wanted to do both. I wanted to have my cake and eat it too. So everyone, we'll see everybody later. Rob, I'm going to cut out right after the show because I got to go to Santa's. So I'll talk to everybody. We'll see everybody pretty soon. Thanks for everybody for hanging out with us. Like the show and all that jazz, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go.
Hey.
It's the end of the show. Come on, let's go.
Hey.
You know you should
Go.
Come on, let's go.
It's not about spaceships.